if you keep on repeating the same things, you also keep on repeating living the same life. Which, if you're doing great, keep on doing it. If there's room for improvement, you may want to reflect on things and change them. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Quality of Life Quest. My name is Anneke. And today we're talking about the 4 lines of sight: hindsight, insight, oversight, and foresight. What if the quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you, but how clearly you can see? And not in an eyesight kind of way, but in deeper forms of seeing, the ones that guide your judgments, shape your decisions, and determine your direction long before the results appear in your life. So today we explore the 4 companions of wisdom. I didn't know that, but I'll tell you how I got there. They seem to be hindsight, insight, oversight, and foresight. So 4 ways of seeing, 4 ways of living, and if used consciously, if you're actually using those things, 4 ways of designing your life with a greater intention. Why words matter more than we think. Language is not decorative, although there are a lot of people who use language in a beautiful way and a very pleasing way. Language also structures your life, and the words you use become the ways we filter reality. Neuroscience got a word for it. It's called predictive processing, as in your brain is constantly guessing what the world means before you consciously experience it. Which then means if you use a better category of words, you get better interpretation, better decision, and a better life trajectory. How did I get here? Well, as you may know, one of the things I do is I work as a healthcare assistant at the Acute Medical Unit in the hospital. The Acute Medical Unit is, shall I say, organized chaos. There are certain steps you need to do. There are certain marks you need to hit every day, but around that, it's chaos. I've got a lot of qualifications. I'm an engineer. I'm a trainer of several modalities. I've worked in various surroundings, and yet this job is by far the most difficult of all. Not because of the individual bits I have to do, keeping people watered, fed, and clean. On paper, that's relatively easy. I mean, most people can do that. It's just to do it all. And then there are some other things I need to do, but they're all not difficult within themselves. It is to do everything at the right moment in time. And somehow my brain categorizes things in a way that does not really go well with how things are organized on the ward, which is a me problem. I mean, everyone lives the same reality. It's just that for me, I find it difficult. I really find it difficult. And from the beginning, I've tried to do better. And I used mostly hindsight. So at the end of the shift, I would ask the people I'd worked with that day, what could I have done differently in order to get a better outcome? That worked for a while. And then, people get a bit fed up with the question. So I have to do it internally, which becomes a bit more difficult, because if you've got input from the outside, if I've got input from my colleagues, it makes the answers a bit easier, and it makes it easier to digest for my brain. But if I have to go and hunt for my own answers, it takes more time. Nevertheless, I did that, and I still do that. This weekend, twice, I noticed that my brain processes things in a certain way whilst the ward works in a different way. And I had discussed it with my daughter on the phone. How can it be that I can oversee the build of a house, which I've done 3 times. The first time was a renovation in which I actively participated. The other 2 were overseeing the whole procedure, making sure that all the things were ordered on time, that things were done in a way that I really wanted. Because if you leave building work to the professionals, I mean, they were all professional people working on that, but if you leave it to them, they will choose an option that's workable for them, which is a one-off. They have to do it once. I have to live in the house, so it has to be really practical for me. Anyway, that's a side tour. I can do that, and I find it easy. Lots of people find it difficult. For me, it's easy. I love the procedure. I don't know why, but it appeals to my brain. I can do this. Whilst the hospital ward doesn't work that way. It's never ending. There is a constant supply of new patients. And yeah, they've got all kind of different needs as well. You can't say a patient is a patient is a patient. No, a patient is an individual and has got individual needs, requirements, requests. Whether that's the single defining thing that's different, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. But I discussed it with my daughter, that why do I find it so easy to organize building a house, and why do I find it so difficult to work at this ward? Whilst in reality, my experience with building houses is 1, a renovation in the Netherlands, and 2, new builds in Great Britain. So that's only 3 real life experiences. And I've been working on the ward for over 2 years now, where the tasks are the same every single day. So why by now do I still not have this, I can do this with my eyes closed, why? I don't know. Anyway, so the first conversation was with my daughter, and the second conversation was with my nurse on Monday. And she's very structured, which in itself appeals to my brain. But when she asked me, have all the patients been turned, rather than my brain going to the collection of patients I have and the fact that they've been turned, yes or no, why doesn't my brain do that? I don't know. It would be so easy if my brain would do that. If I could say, oh yes, I've turned this, that, and that patient, and I've missed out on, 1 or 2 patients. As an example. But my brain doesn't work like that. And only when I go and see the patient in person do memories flood back to my brain, as in, oh yes, we did this, we did that, and it was roughly that time, and I don't know. So at the end of Monday, I was quite frustrated by my own brain. I love my brain. I really do love my brain. And I was frustrated by how it didn't do what I expected to do. And then came the question, how can I do better? And hindsight doesn't get me any further. I've got over 2 years worth of hindsight now. That's plenty of hindsight. Insight, in my mind, I do have insight in the individual tasks. I can roughly do what I need to do. I can make a judgment whether I can do it by myself or whether I need colleagues to help me. I've got insight in it. But in my mind, I didn't have oversight. And then I was going, oversight, insight, oversight, insight. And I was kind of going to and fro between the two. What's the exact difference? And I couldn't quite make up my mind how to go about things, because I wanted to choose one word to take me forward. I wanted to choose one word to guide me through the day. And as you do in modern times, if you don't know something, you ask the internet. So I asked the internet, is there a higher value word beyond insight and oversight? And up popped an answer, and it said foresight. And then it gave a whole explanation about the fact that those 4 words really go together, and it's the foundation of wisdom. So I'm I'm not wise yet because I didn't know. So here we are, down my own personal rabbit hole of insight and oversight, which then expanded into hindsight, insight, oversight, and foresight. So what is hindsight? Hindsight in itself is the art of looking back without turning bitter or without emotional judgment or regret. It's, well, of course, you can do that as long as you learn from it. To me, it's finding patterns. Now, the internet says you shouldn't be asking, why did this happen to me? And in a way, I agree. You shouldn't go like, oh, why did this happen to me? But if you ask, why? What are the reasons this happened to me? And how can I learn from that and do something different in the future? Which might not be perfect either, but at least it's something different, so you'll get a different outcome. And when you keep on working towards that, your life will get better. So it depends on how you ask it, whether you ask it in a, oh dear me way, or in a way where you expect to learn from it. So things you can ask yourself in the evening, if this is something that you would like to try out. What worked today? Or what did go well? What have I tried and it worked? What did not work well today? What did I try and, for want of a better word, it failed? What surprised me? What will I repeat? What will I refine? And what will I try to avoid at all cost? So there's no punishment in that. There's learning. No punishment, learning. Do you prefer ad-free listening and viewing? Would you like to see your questions answered? And how about live Zooms? Would you enjoy discounts on everything from artwork to courses to one-on-one chats with me? Become a founder member. Go to thequalityoflife.quest to find out more. See you on the other side. Hindsight converts experience into wisdom only when you reflect on it. Otherwise, your experience just becomes repetition. As the past 2 years, I've learned a lot over the past 2 years. I really have learned a lot in a job that I didn't know there was so much to learn. I learned an awful lot. And there is a lot to learn, and there's even more to learn. As I said before, I've done a lot of hindsight, and I did reflect on it, and now it's becoming repetition. I'm sure there's more to learn for me with hindsight, but that's not where it's at for me at this moment in time. If you keep on repeating the same things, you also keep on repeating living the same life, which, if you're doing great, keep on doing it. If there's room for improvement, you may want to reflect on things and change things. Now, insight is looking into things. It's not backwards, it's not forwards, it's where are you right now? What is really happening here? It's not necessarily about the story or the drama or the performance, or it's about the structure of things. It's about the motive. It's about, for want of a better word, truth. Insight requires some stillness. I would say hindsight, insight, they all require stillness. They require a moment of contemplation. But since insight is something you're doing right here, right now, about the right here and right now, it might get a bit noisy at times. So you have to consciously separate yourself from the situation for a moment. So what you can do if you want to practice with insight, you can ask yourself, where am I acting from? Am I acting from fear, or am I acting from clarity? For me, I'm not at work, I'm not acting from fear, but as in an overview of the whole situation, I'm also not acting from clarity. That is my insight. You can ask yourself, what is it that is screaming out to me to be changed? What is it that needs to be changed? Insight can be uncomfortable, but it can also be very liberating, because what you can see clearly, you can change clearly. So yeah, that's insight. Oversight. This is not the oversight of supervision, management, control. This is the oversight you get from viewing from a distance or viewing from above. It's to be like standing on a hill rather than in the midst of a forest. If you stand on top of the hill, you can see the paths, you can see the roads, you can see the patterns. If you're standing in the middle of a forest, you can't. Oversight is some sort of strategy that you can create for your consciousness. That sounds a bit airy-fairy, but it prevents you from two very modern different traps. One is that you mistake busyness for progress. Just the fact that you're busy doesn't mean that you make progress. I can be very busy with an awful lot of things, whilst, not gaining any traction whatsoever. The other one is that reactivity is mistaken for responsibility. And that are two very different things as well. So when you practice oversight, I don't even know how to say that. When you apply oversight to your life, you can ask, am I directing my life, or am I merely responding to it? And if you want to be the leader of your own life, you do this just about every day. Not just someday, not when things calm down, but exactly when life gets very complex. That's when you need to have this muscle trained. So if you train it every day, then in time of need, you can actually practice it. What was it? You don't rise to the challenge, but you fall to the level of your training. Something like that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And it applies to your own life, when you do things like this. You can do this as often as you like. In the spirit of this exercise, you can look at your life as if you were advising someone you love. And that's the thing, isn't it? If you are looking to improve your life on that particular level, sometimes it's better to ask your friends how they see you, because they see you from a distance. They're not in your bubble. They're not living inside it. They can see you from that distance. So they might have a clearer view of you and of the problems you're facing. You can ask yourself, where is my energy leaking? If I do a certain task, or if I talk to certain people, or whatever it is, where does the energy just leave your body? It's gone. You can also ask, what or who deserves more of me? What is deserving of me? Where could I apply myself more? And who or what deserves less? There are always those, as I said, the drains on your energy. And do you really need to have certain conversations with certain people? Do you really need to go on your phone to do whatever it is you do, and it doesn't add anything to your life? And you can ask yourself, am I living aligned, or am I merely occupied? That's a great one to ask. Oversight restores authorship. You become your own leader again. You become in charge of your own life again. So now we arrive at the word that the internet gave me that was of a higher value and still is of a higher value. Foresight. So foresight it's not a prediction, it's being prepared. It is not future telling, it's preparedness. And trajectory awareness. So foresight belongs to those willing to ask better long-range questions. If I continue like this, where do I arrive? What future am I rehearsing through today's habits? I thought that was brilliantly framed. It was not a phrase by me. But yeah, it is true. If I keep on doing this, I am training my whole being to do this. And where does it lead to? You know, what kind of future am I going to live? And what will matter in 10 years that I should honor now? Or what matters in 10 years and what should I leave behind now? People quite often overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in, say, about 3 years' time. It's also interesting, isn't it, if you talk about time travel. People who are talking about time travel and they would like to go time travel, but they are afraid that if they go into the past and they change a tiny thing and the whole future of the world will change because of the tiny thing they've done. So they acknowledge that in science fiction, but in their own life, they don't acknowledge that they can change a tiny thing today and for it to have a massive impact on your own life in the future. Foresight, it stretches your identity forwards into the future. So if you can see the patterns today, and that might well be informed by hindsight, insight, and oversight, it gives you patterns. And if those patterns continue into the future, where will you end up? So you can ask yourself, what would my future self thank me for if I were to start something today? So you start something today and your future self will thank you for it. And when you get an answer to that, do it, start doing it. And foresight, it transforms time as a thing from something that happens to you into something you collaborate with. Because you can see the trajectory and you can work with it rather than against it. So all the four together. And this is where it really becomes powerful. I did allude to it a moment ago. So the hindsight is you're looking back and it's to extract patterns and wisdom from the past. The insight is inwards and it reveals some truths. Oversight is when you're above a situation and for you to maintain alignment. And foresight, it's looking forwards and shaping your destiny. It is when you see a pattern, do I like it? Yes or no? Is this where I want to go? Yes or no? And then apply it. Sometimes you can divide people in certain categories. So people who are more nostalgic, they live in hindsight. People who are more analytical tend to live in insight. Executives, they quite often live in oversight, and visionaries, they live in foresight. But best of all is to live in all of them, to apply all of them. That would be the ideal, to have all four. The best thing you can achieve is to live in all four of those areas, to take all four of those things and use them to your advantage. And then clarity doesn't become just one viewpoint. It is the ability to change vantage points deliberately. So when you live all those words together, the best thing you can do is to have this ability to change vantage points deliberately. So before you go to bed, you can have a bit of hindsight going on and extract some wisdom. You can do some insight work as well. And then you can step back for the oversight. What's going on then? What's going on here? And then go to sleep with the foresight of the patterns you have recognized and what it is you want to change. And the next morning when you wake up, to start the day with that foresight in mind and to align your day. So for me, I will choose a word that reflects what I want to do during that day. And I will take that as word of the day. And we will talk about some water experiments and all the rest of it. But I will take it as a word of the day or word of the weekend, because I work over the weekend, and see where it takes me. I'm personally really curious, and if you've got experience with this, or if it is something you're going to try out, please let us know in the comments what it is you have learned from it, what kind of insight you have gained, and how your life changes because of it. When you choose a word, energy flows where attention goes. That applies to everything. And if you choose a word deliberately, and if you remind yourself of that particular word during the day, energy flows where attention goes. So your attention goes to the word, and your energy will follow suit. And hopefully, life follows as well. And I hope that you may learn from what's behind you, see clearly within you, rise above what entangles you, and walk calmly towards what is waiting for you. So choose your sight wisely. May the road rise up to meet you. Until next time, see you. Bye.